Potstirrer Podcast, where politics, religion, and history collide, and it's not always polite. This is a Minisode, episode 00, a synopsis, if you will. What you will hear about are subjects and topics that you might not dare bring up at the dinner table, but they are fair game here. We stir the pot with those topics that are not spoken about in polite company. This is an opinion podcast about U.S. politics, but will include a historical and faith perspective, and facts too. You will get my take, and you may occasionally get other segments. Potstirrer Podcast is a journey, and I invite you to join me. I am your host, Jay Poole. My purpose for recording Potstirrer Podcast is to get us thinking more deeply about American politics and how we got to where we are today in our society, and to use this knowledge to take ownership of the political process and the future of the United States. With the election and inauguration of Donald Trump, this divided society we live in and the uncertainty of our country's future, we live in unusual times, and such times call for us to be anything but apathetic. Knowledge is power. I am a forever student of American politics. I grew up in a politics-loving family, and with that came an appreciation of historical context. I took that love of civics and learning about government to the next level, earning a BA in political science and sociology from The Ohio State University and a PhD in political science from the University of Cincinnati. I spent several years as a part-time professor, primarily while in grad school. But about 5 years ago, I left academia for the private sector. So for me, this podcast is a labor of love, a way to be involved again in a topic I truly enjoy, but as a student and a hobbyist rather than as an academic career. The other piece of this is that I approach my views from not only a historical perspective. I'm a Christian. I chose my faith path while in college several years ago. My faith informs my politics, but I'm quite aware that I don't have all the answers. But it is my worldview, and I can't divorce it from my political and social views. As Christian author and activist Jim Wallace says, faith is personal, but never private. Full disclosure, my politics lean left of center in general, but do not fit an ideological checklist. And like most Americans, my thoughts have evolved over time and continue to do so as more information is available and as I listen to other people. So what I say now may not be where I land a year from now, 5 years from now, a decade from now. Life is a journey, and this show will be a journey. That said, do not mistake my lack of ideological checklist for an argument to moderation. You will not get moderate politics here. You will not get a lack of bias here. You will not get fair and balanced here. To be sure, there are good people on various sides of most political debates, and there's much to be learned from understanding the different arguments surrounding an issue. However, the idea that meeting in the middle should be the goal, or that a moderate opinion is always the best one, is faulty logic, especially if you believe in right and wrong. Can we find a middle ground on an issue like slavery? It was attempted, but it led to the Civil War, the bloodiest conflict in American history. If you agree with me on every issue, that's great, but realistically, very few people do. I can almost guarantee that you will disagree with me on something. That's a given for me. This is not the mainstream media where I will cater to your ideological comfort. This is not a safe podcast, but this will be different. And if you happen to feel stressed or challenged, I am doing my job. Like Potstirrer Podcast on Facebook. Follow the show on Twitter at PotstirrerCast and Instagram at Potstirrer Podcast. I'm Jay Poole. Let's fight for America's future because freedom is not free.